Bitcoin fell by another 2.5% yesterday. In today's video, we're going to be jumping down into the technical analysis, taking a look at what's been going on with Bitcoin and where I think things are heading next. Let's roll that intro and get right down into it. Okay guys, here we have Bitcoin paired up with USDT. We're using the 1 hour Binance chart here. And as you can kind of see, we had this upper trend line, right? This is an area that we bounced on 3-4 times. We lost it as support and it became our resistance. So you can see here, previous support turned to resistance. Yesterday, we moved up a little bit higher. We tapped into this high range at $42,728. And then we immediately fell back down, losing the 50 SMA, the 50 EMA, and the 200 EMA. The 200 EMA, currently sat at $42,280, is being major resistance, but we can also see the 50 EMA and the 50 SMA crossing down lower than that of the 200 EMA. This is a death cross on that 1 hour time frame, indicating that things are not looking overly too great here for Bitcoin. Now, I do want to kind of stress that we do have ourselves a bit of an interesting structural point, and I do expect us to kind of continue moving on down. My estimate here on Bitcoin to move down probably towards, let me see if I can just get this right, about 40,939 to 30,529. It's going to be this little yellow box here. So I'll move that out of the way and show you. So right in this little sweet spot is where I think we are going to be heading and breaking down to. That means that our low, our current swing low at 41,400 is unlikely to hold as support. In this area that we find ourselves in at the moment, we do find that there is this interesting area of support to currently be found. We have failed to close inside this area at the moment. So the bulls are going to be holding on to that, looking for this to be a big reversal point for Bitcoin's price. This range is $41,605 to $41,798. Ultimately, we probably will find brief support here, and then we'll be looking to move from this area back towards that 200 EMA, 50 EMA, 50 SMA situation before, in my opinion, breaking down, losing those lows and heading down into our slightly lower range. As I said, between 40,523 to 40,937. So on this 1 hour time frame, I suspect that we still have further to the downside to go before we can see any decent structural points upwards. Now, this lower range, as you can kind of see, is also an area that we did find previous support in. So this could be another retest of that, giving yourself a double bottom and maybe a bounce to the upside from there. Our stochastic RSI, as you guys can see, has plenty of momentum and movements to the upside to be seen here, indicating that we may see a little bit of a surge upwards today, but I'm not sure if we're going to have a significant amount of momentum behind that movement, because we can already see that we've rallied up a bit on this stochastic RSI out of the oversold area, and we did that whilst price was moving down. It's indicating that there's a lack of an interest to buy in this particular range right now, and we might actually only find a really small bounce and then just come on back down. Once we chew through all the buy orders at this particular range at the 41,600 to 41,800, once we chew through all of those orders there, you are going to have to unfortunately come on down significantly deeper. So I'm looking at Bitcoin's price action right now with the idea of moving down a little bit lower in the price action here. And we won't probably be testing out lower than 40,000 right now. I suspect that we'll probably just move down a fraction more towards, the $40.5 to $41,000 range. From Smart Money Concepts, still remains in a bearish structure, but nothing else has changed here. Ultimately, we haven't got a break of structure to confirm the bearishness, and we haven't got a change of character to flip it from bearish to bullish. Ultimately, we have found ourselves in quite a boring weekend, a little bit of volatility with a 2.5% drop yesterday. but ultimately not a lot else going on here. I think bigger plays are going to be happening today with more volatility seen for the weekly close positions. Let's roll this up out of the stochastic RSI and into the divergence indicator. Again, we had the bullish divergence before we had this run upwards. We had no divergences here indicating this move to the downside, but it was pretty obvious, I would have thought, considering how we were lifting up that stochastic RSI and just testing up these areas of resistance following on from yesterday's video. We were hitting those resistances at the 200 EMA, the 50 EMA, the 50 SMA, and although we rallied up slightly higher than those, we found our trend line to continue to be that resistance that dragged price down. So ultimately no divergences being seen here, but pretty clear that we were looking to move down. Volume profiles are very, very low still. Again, nothing overly impressive has been seen from the volume side of things. Okay, let's take this up into the daily time frame. So the daily time frame was targeting out this little slightly higher range right here at the $42,400 to $44,146. This particular range we tapped into and immediately got rejected from there. Okay, so we can see that there's going to be these upper areas of selling interest right in that upper area, that upper range. I still think we have the ability to push up slightly higher here into that range. Once we finish off those daily hourly corrections, I think our daily chart will be looking to test right back up there at the $44,000 level. I do not expect us though to move up higher than 44,700, which is our swing high number. I'm not expecting that to kind of happen. However, it is a possibility that we do rally up slightly higher if we needed to, but I don't think that is going to unfold. Instead, I look at this upper area of premium, as you can kind of see on the chart here, being our major area of selling pressure. Ultimately, I think we got this little bit of overlap right inside our expected range, and that is where we're going to get rejected. So all in all, I expect a bit of a move to the downside on the kind of the hourly chart, and then from there we're going to be looking for a bigger move to the upside. And that's going to be an opportunity for anyone who wants to go long on Bitcoin. There is going to be that opportunity there, in my opinion. Ultimately, from that, though, I do expect further to the downside, where we'll be testing out the $39,600 to $40,000 level. That is the yellow area that you see just here on the chart. That is something that I am thinking is going to happen at some point soon, but not until we've kind of retested those highs. Of course, underneath here, we have our 50 EMA, the 50 SMA, as per yesterday's video, and then underneath that you've got your fair value gap. Again, we spoke about these all yesterday. The main interesting range for me is this lower one down here between 30,248 and 32,832. This is where the 200 EMA sits in this particular fair value gap, and this is where I think we're going to find the major area of support. As if I drag this across here, you can see this was the previous area of resistance that was broken through and just hasn't been retested just yet. So this is a real interesting zone for me. It's interesting that the fair value gap sits there. It's interesting that the 200 EMA sits there. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how price reacts when it comes down here, which I do think we are likely to do. Our stochastic RSI is oversold. That is going to help us get up towards that $44,000 once again. If I take that off and throw on our divergence indicators here, we can see that we had that hidden bullish divergence, and that's what drove us up into our range to start with. No more divergences have been seen since, and so that's an interesting one, but nothing else is really kind of helping us understand where that is likely to go next. Volume profiles obviously are non-existent. I'll zoom out just a fraction so you can see the previous volume in early 2023 as we were kind of going into January, February, March, and then of course volumes have completely died off while still price moves on up. That's only really possible from supply-demand imbalances, and logically thinking, basically, there's less Bitcoin on the exchanges now than there was previously. And because there is little volume to meet the demand, even though the demand is small, price moves to the upside. Now, you can argue manipulation in all of those understandings. If you understand what moves the price, then it's not too difficult if you are someone who has control or access to large, significant amounts of volume to move that volume to your advantage. Either take the volume away from being made available for purchase, and therefore you have shrinkage in supply, price goes up. And if you put the supply back out there, flood the market with excess supply, then price goes down. So taking a look at the volume profiles the way that they are, to me, makes me very, very cautious over what potentially happens next. It doesn't take a lot of supply to tank this price very, very hard. Likewise, if volumes on exchanges stay very, very low and we kind of see, a Bitcoin spot ETF launch, then of course, prices will moon like no one's ever thought would be possible before. So where we find ourselves is in kind of one of those situations where if the significant amount of volume comes to the exchanges, the price is going to drop so much harder than people are willing to probably admit. And likewise, if volumes stay away from the exchanges and we see some real positive news or some increase in demand coming to the exchanges, then price is going to continue to move up very, very rapidly as well. So some good things and some bad things there. We need to kind of be very objective over what we look at in terms of that volume because, it can go in either direction. So just be really cautious. Ultimately, with lack of interest at the moment, lack of demand for Bitcoin, my concerns are that there'll be a big sell the news event when a Bitcoin spot ETF is approved. Move up into a weekly time frame, and the weekly time frame is also interesting. We have our parallel channel. We can see here we're getting rejected from the upper area of it. We can also see that we have several areas of interest on here. The first one being 36 to 37,000. Underneath that you have 30 to 31,000. Then under that you've got 24 to 26, and of course under that is 19 to 21. Now we spoke about all of those yesterday as well, and obviously the expectation is never to kind of just rally through all of them and go straight down. You're expected really to kind of bounce around quite a bit and kind of slowly work your way to the downside. Ultimately, that's kind of like how you would kind of figure it in an ideal situation, because it kind of is a more slow and gradual kind of stepping up and stepping down. As you kind of see over on this parallel channel, we stepped up several times, right? We step up, we step down, we stepped up, we stepped down, we stepped up, we stepped down, we stepped up. And then we're just going to do the same thing in return. Now, a lot of people will also acknowledge that this is a market maker pattern as well. For those who are unfamiliar with the market maker pattern, I'll quickly just find some empty space here. Market makers generally like to do something like this. Price goes up, it consolidates, it goes up, it consolidates, it goes up, it consolidates, and then it goes down, it consolidates, it goes down, it consolidates, and it goes down. It basically mirrors what happened on the way up, on the way down, right? And it's really badly drawn, but you kind of get the idea. And so we find ourselves in an almost potential situation where this happens. We've mapped out all these interesting ranges, right? And you can see that you go up, you consolidate, you go up, you consolidate, you go up. We're going to consolidate, we're going to go down, we'll consolidate, we'll go down, we'll consolidate, we'll go down. And you basically revisit these areas. And considering the demand levels and the volume levels for Bitcoin, it makes me wonder if that's exactly what is going to unfold here. Obviously, this is just wild speculation. There's nothing more than kind of candlestick patterns and stuff like that here. Obviously, we do have the macroeconomic climate to kind of contend with and all that kind of stuff. But I think for the most part, it would be very interesting to see if we do hit all of those areas on the way down. Ultimately, how price reacts to all of these is going to be key, that we don't just assume that we're going straight down to 20K. But I do think we have to be coming down to at least 30, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think main area of support is now actually sitting at 24 to 26. That's really where support levels are. If those get broken, really you are screwed and you are going down significantly lower. But for now, I think we have to kind of really be looking 36, 37, 30 to 32 and kind of see how those kind of go. No divergences on the weekly chart, but you can see how high that weekly RSI is. It's not a good position. From our stochastics, also incredibly overbought, so not a good position on the weekly time frame there either. Ultimately, on the weekly time frame, things are looking quite bearish, not bullish. And I said this for a while: low volume profiles, overbought stochastics, overbought RSIs, and basically we're looking for come down towards support. So I think it could take several weeks to months to play out, but I'm expecting us to kind of see a little bit more of a move to the downside. The bulls and the bears really are fighting it out a little bit. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes. I haven't really got any kind of key targets for today on the weekly, so it'll be interesting to see what does unfold a little bit later on today. From our monthly time frame, you can see again this interesting structural point to the upside where we are now up in this overbought range. Last time that we were this overbought, we were, of course, at the $65,000. We know what happened there. The time before that, we were up here in June of 2019, where we started to see a big corrective move to the downside. Ultimately, every time the monthly has been this overbought, we have seen 50% or so corrections. Alongside that of the weekly time frame, when we've been this overbought, we have seen pretty steady corrections to the downside as well, usually around 20 to 30%. Ultimately, when both of those things align, we do see heavier corrections than I think the bulls are willing to acknowledge. So just bear in mind, things are not so good at that macro level, not only from a charting point of view, but from a macroeconomic point of view as well. Guys, I think that's going to wrap up today's video. If you have found it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Don't forget to join us down in Discord. Link is in the description down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.